Hello, welcome back, Recapped Mystery here. Today, I'm going to explain a fantasy, action, adventure film, The Old Guard. Watch out and take care. Booker approaches Andy on the street to inform her of a prospective job opportunity. South Sudan has rescued hostages. He informs her that James Copley, a former CIA agent, is now freelancing these types of assignments and wants them to complete it. Andy refuses to take the task because she believes the world is no longer worth rescuing, but Booker persuades her to return to the hotel and discuss it with Nikki and Joe. They all greet one another warmly at the hotel, despite not seeing each other in a long time. The rest of the staff is eager to take the work, but Andy remains cautious. She doesn't have faith in Copley. They persuade her to accompany Booker to a meeting with him just to hear what he has to say, and she accepts. While Andy and Booker are sitting at an outdoor table at a cafe, Nikki and Joe keep an eye out the hotel window to ensure that nothing goes awry. Copley informs them of the problem and how they may assist make a difference. Andy is hesitant, but accepts the position. She asks Copley why he left the CIA, and he says he chose to take a vacation when his wife became ill, but after she died, he couldn't bring himself to return. The crew takes a chopper to South Sudan to investigate the hostage situation. They discreetly execute the guards and make their way inside once darkness falls. They realize there are no hostages once they enter the bunker. Andy notices cameras on the ceiling and realizes they've been set up. Dozens of military troops enter the room and begin firing on the four. They collapse to the ground, their blood pooling around them. When the troops believe they are dead, they turn their backs, but their bodies begin to recover and expel the bullets. Copley witnesses them rising from the ground and killing the soldiers. They hide their bleeding clothing in the sand before boarding a train. They talk about their alternatives inside. Andy claims that they must find and kill Copley because he has evidence of them resurrecting. Niles is an American soldier serving in Afghanistan. She is dispatched on a mission to check on a group of women who are suspected of being held prisoner by an enemy. When she confronts the women, they silently point her towards the male, and she enters the building to murder him. She shoots him in the chest, and the man slashes her throat as she goes to check on the body. Her friend comforts her as she dies. On the train, the crew dreams of Niles being slain, and in the Afghan medic tent, Niles has visions of the train's crew. The crew realizes that the dreams indicate that there is another of them. This irritates Andy because she wanted to end things with Copley and go into hiding. The rest of the team persuades her that they must locate Niles and take her in. She promises to go do it herself and to meet them in Paris. They've been tasked with finding Copley. When her friends come to check on her, Niles realizes they are all afraid of her because she doesn't even have a scar from the injury. Niles is informed that the incident has been reported and that she will be flown to Germany for additional examination. When she returns to her tent, she discovers that her companions have already packed her belongings. Merrick gives a presentation to hundreds of potential stem cell donors in England. He claims to have the technology to figure out how to stop human disease and extend human longevity. All he needs is financing. Merrick then meets with Copley and several of his colleagues to discuss Andy and her crew. Copley gives him the footage he was able to obtain showing them resurrecting, but Merrick remains unhappy. He claims he needs hard evidence because people will question him. I believe the video has been manipulated. He wants Copley to apprehend them and deliver them to him. While Niles is waiting for a helicopter to take her to Germany, Andy intervenes and kidnaps her. She awakens in the trunk of an army vehicle driven by Andy and attempts to flee immediately. Andy stops driving to go collect her after she kicks out the back and falls on the ground. Andy shoots Niles in the back of the head while she tries to flee. She waits for Niles to resurrect, and when she does, Andy informs her that if she wants answers, she must return to the automobile. Andy and Niles board a drug trafficking jet bound for Paris. Niles appears dissatisfied with Andy's responses, and after Andy goes to bed, Niles shackles her to her chair and holds a gun to the pilot's head, ordering him to reverse the plan. Andy awakens and instructs the pilot to fake dead in Russian in order to distract Niles. While Niles and Andy quarrel, the pilot returns to flying the jet to Paris. Ultimately, Andy triumphs and is able to persuade Niles to agree to travel to Paris. When they arrive in Paris, they meet the rest of the group at an ancient abandoned church. They eat dinner together and get to know one another. Booker achieved immortality in the 18th century. Nikki and Joe met as foes during the Crusades in the 12th century, while Andy claims to be the oldest, but has no idea how old she is, except for Andy, who sits up in a chair in the living room. They all retire to bed. Niles has a nightmare that wakes everyone up in the middle of the night. She reveals that she had a dream about a woman drowning in the middle of the sea, imprisoned in an iron casket. The crew informs her that she witnessed Quine, an eternal woman who used to battle alongside Andy. They were caught and accused of witchcraft themselves while attempting to release women accused of witchcraft. When the town discovered they couldn't die, it only reaffirmed their suspicions, and they set to work figuring out how to get rid of them. They eventually separated the women and threw Quine into the sea in an iron casket. Inside, she drowns and resurrects only to perish again and again for eternity. They explain that it is possible for them to die, but it is extremely unlikely. They explain that if an immortal has lived long enough, their wounds simply cease healing, indicating that it is their time. Outside, Andy and Niles discuss about their loved ones and the individuals they must leave behind in order to begin their new lives. They can hear soldiers outside the church while they talk. Copley has discovered where they have been hiding. Copley watches from a nearby surveillance van as Andy looks after the soldiers. Joe and Nikki are nowhere to be found when they return to the church. Booker has been injured by a grenade, and it will take some time for him to recover. While Andy kills the remaining soldiers, Niles waits with Booker. When she returns, they pack their belongings and head to another hiding. Joe and Nikki find themselves in a van surrounded by troops. They are teased for being gay and are restrained when they try to embrace. When the van arrives in England to meet Copley, the rear door is opened to see that Joe and Nikki had murdered everyone inside while still shackled. They are led to Merrick, who says that he intends to utilize them for stem cell research and will experiment on them until he discovers how to extend the human lifetime. He expresses that he doesn't care what he needs to do to them or how much suffering they are, and he simply wants results. Merrick insists that Copley bring him Andy and Booker after Nikki and Joe are taken to a lab. Andy, Booker, and Niles seek refuge in an abandoned mine. When you're inside, Andy realizes she's still bleeding from the church brawl and isn't healing on her own. She slips out quietly, and Booker tells Niles how difficult it is to watch all of your loved ones die, especially when they don't believe them when they say they can't help. Andy goes to a drugstore and buys medical supplies. The cashier offers to assist her in dressing her wounds in the back room. When Andy inquires as to why the woman is assisting her, especially without question, the woman responds that she expects Andy to pass on the act of kindness to someone else the next day. When Andy returns to the automobile, she tries to accept the idea that she is no longer immortal. Joe and Nikki are restrained on medical chairs in Merrick's laboratory. Copley tries to convince Merrick that he has all the samples he could possibly need and that he no longer has to hold them prisoner. Merrick declares that he will do anything he wants with Joe and Nikki and that he would not stop until he sees results. Nikki informs the nurse that they will not be able to produce any results, that people have done the same experiments on them in the past under the guise of assisting people, and it has never worked. Nyla awakens in the middle of the night from a horrible dream and goes outside. She discovers Andy looking through her phone, and they talk about family and the agony of immortality. Booker meets with them and informs them that he has discovered a likely place where Copley may be, and they proceed in that direction. They pull up outside the fence that surrounds Copley's building and begin to prepare to enter. Andy orders Booker to scout ahead, but Niles refuses, stating she couldn't live with killing people and wants to spend as much time as she can with her family before it's too late. Andy hands over the car and pistols and points her in the direction of a train station. She enters the building with Booker by herself. Copley is found in an upstairs room and is held at gunpoint. Booker shoots Andy in the side and restrains her, much to Andy's amazement. He explains that he set them up and brought everyone to Copley and Merrick in the hopes that Merrick will find a method to make them die so they won't have to suffer any longer. When Booker realizes Andy isn't recovering, he begins to panic. Guards enter and restrain Andy and Booker, and Copley protests, stating he doubts Andy will withstand the tests they're about to subject her to. Merrick is unconcerned, and the guards whisk them away. Merrick transports Andy and Booker to the testing facility where Joe and Nikki are held. Copley tells Merrick that if Andy is no longer immortal, then this testing is murder, and he will not support it. Merrick evicts him and goes to work attempting to keep Andy alive so they can do tests on her. Niles turns around and returns to Merrick's base. Copley finds her and tells her what's going on. He informs her that he spent years researching Andy and her crew, as well as all the good they've done for humanity during their lives. He claims he thought bringing them in and testing them would assist the world, but now realizes he was mistaken and that they would have done more good for the world if they had just left them alone. Copley agrees to take Niles to where Merrick is keeping them, and Copley provides her an access code. Niles makes her way through the building's little army, and the soldiers inform Merrick that Niles, too, is immortal. She discovers where they are being held and frees them. Nikki and Joe are furious with Booker for betraying them, and Andy is tired of fighting. Andy persuades Joe and Nikki that now is not the time to debate about it. Andy is persuaded by Niles that she still has a vow to keep and a purpose to fight. Niles arms them all, and they walk through the structure, trying to find and murder Merrick. They all try to protect Andy, but she swiftly demonstrates that even though she is no longer immortal, she is still just as capable. When they arrive at Merrick's office, he is not there, and the lift is breaking down. Nikki and Joe follow Merrick, while Niles stays with Andy. The lift collapse was a ruse, and Merrick appears, pointing a gun at Andy. Niles and Andy replicate Andy's prank on her aboard the plane, and Andy pretends to be dead in order to distract Merrick long enough for Niles to tackle him. They smash through the glass and fall several stories before collapsing on a car, killing both of them. Nikki and Joe go to check on Niles and assist her in getting out of the car. Andy joins them, and they leave Merrick's body and drive away. Later, they eat lunch, and Booker waits outside while the rest of the team discusses how to punish him for betraying them. Niles goes outside to console him, telling her she will be an excellent addition to the squad. Andy approaches him on the beach and informs him that they have determined that his punishment will be 100 years alone. Because Andy is mortal, they will never see each other again. The gang then addresses Copley, explaining that all evidence of their immortality must be removed and asking for his assistance in repairing the Earth. The conclusion: please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.